everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5 Mondays on Facebook. It's a great day. I mean, here in Toronto, it's absolutely beautiful. There's actually so much to kind of cover, and I will continue to do videos here and there during the week on anything that comes up, especially the breast cancer. The breast cancer that I spoke about in the last video, not live at 5, but last week, was a very, in my opinion, a very good topic to speak about, because there are people out there that don't understand that really what's happening is a number of people are actually having breast removal, and because they're being diagnosed with cancer, but then it turns out that when the tests actually come through, they don't have cancer. So in the article that I posted, I'll go grab the link, it was up to 44% misdiagnosis for some cancers. So you can go onto the page and go down a little bit. You'll see that video about just that topic. But anybody who's being diagnosed with cancer, I think that there is tests that they do. Some are just preliminary tests. Other tests take a little bit longer. And I think it's worthwhile to explore misdiagnosis on cancer so that you don't have to go through what some women have done. And this one lady was 29 years old. So you can imagine she went through it. She actually went through the chemo. Now, whether she went through all of the chemo, I don't know, and had all of the side effects, because chemo is poison. The doctors know this. And I'm going to just put this on silent. There we go. So then, so you get this misdiagnosis. So what do we hear? Oh, okay. Hi, Jack. Hi, Gordon. Hi, Howard. Ramiz says, what do you think if I'm saying the name correctly, what do you think the most important cause of breast cancer is? Thanks. Now, if we go into breast cancer and think about the causes of breast cancer, there's a couple things that come to mind. And one of the things that came in all my research over several years, and then speaking to the root cause of all diseases, the stages of disease, is that breast breasts are very fatty. They're fatty tissue. And you can look at the brain as fatty tissue, you can look at the liver as a lot of fatty tissue, and the lungs as well. But the breast at the lowest end of the totem pole. So according to the research, according to the doctors, and this is over decades, the fats, the highly processed fats that we have today, all the processed refined, they say refined vegetable, and it sounds like such a nice, lovely word, refined, but it's actually heated, bleached, and deodorized. And then amongst there's some other steps too, if you understand the refining process of oils. And our fatty tissues in our body our bodies, I think, are brilliant. They will absolutely put fats where they're most needed, and perhaps use the unhealthy fats where they're least needed. And this is what came through in the reading that I did, was that the breast tissue would get the brunt of the unhealthy processed fats. And this is an area, fats are an area where they store toxins. And toxins are one of the root causes of disease, but more importantly, it's going to be explained in my book in very much detail, is how we hold on to those toxins, how we're not eliminating those toxins. That's one of the key things, is how we are not eliminating toxins. So if we think about the types of fats, just for that question, if we think about the types of fats that we're consuming, and we're thinking about the processed foods in general and the toxicity, and then from the other side, how stress and such actually hinder the process of elimination. So our body, it's almost like you can always look at things in two sides. what are we not getting enough of, and what are we getting too much of the unhealthy things? Well, we got distractions here, crazy. Hey, Shadow, come here, come. And we've got workers here today. So the idea is we do have to look at it individually as far as where their nutritional deficiencies are, where they're not eliminating properly or the body's not able to, and that's a function of all the functions within the body, from the nervous system even down to the digestive or the bowel or sluggish, liver, those kind of things. So that's how I would kind of describe it as far as the most important cause of breast cancer is processed foods and nutritional deficiencies not able to eliminate properly. So I hope that helps. Everything else is going to be part of those pieces, and that's where I think we can focus on. Anybody here in a North American diet, those kind of processed foods that we have, convenience foods, we need to check out what the fats are. That was absolutely, as far as some in-depth research on it, that these unhealthy fats that we're consuming are really hindering from our brain function, our communication function, endocrine function, immune system function, and managing inflammation and healing potential, our energy production. So this is where healthy fats come in. And actually, you're very welcome. And there's absolutely more detail that I can go in there. The other side of it is, okay, what are healthy fats? I'm just going in because I was going to actually talk a little bit about seal oil, which most people have not heard of. Now, seal oil is a mammalian oil. So really, seal oil is raw seal oil, not the refined, not the purified, all these molecular distilled, all these fancy names for processed or highly processed. There's always a process that goes on to get something into a bottle or to get it to us, perhaps. But that process is minimal, especially if there's no chemicals and no high heat. Like, you're not denaturing or allowing for more rancidity or oxidation within the foods. Now, a raw seal oil, I only know of one product in the world that I've been working with for over 10 years. And I had a person who works with energy in here on Saturday morning, and I let her try it. She wanted to try it, and within minutes, through the brain, because it's sublingual absorption, she could notice the change in the brightness in the room and the colors of the room. Now, that's somebody who's sensitive and aware to those kind of things. But the idea is, a lot of people out there are consuming fish oils, krill oil, plant oils, and if your digestive system isn't working properly, let's just say the stats, the research, the testing has shown that will not convert the plant. We're not a plant, so we need to convert. We need to effectively absorb, and in order to make it efficiently used by our body. And that's important. That's a very key important, that we can go on plant-based foods, but how is our body? Sure, it might be a break we need. It might be a lot healthier than we need. But the idea is, when it comes to fats, plant oils need to be effectively absorbed, and then they need to be converted and used so that it can be helpful, as I say it as a practitioner, higher functioning. So raw seal oil is one of those healthy fats. Cold pressed real olive oil, not the millions of barrels of olive oil that is kind of spiked with vegetable oil. That's the best way I can think of it right now. But true cold pressed olive oil where there's no heat generated from the pressing. So it's usually like a slow press, and you're not really going to see this on the bottles. I mean, this is the little bit of the conundrum with some of these things. But apparently the sniff test will tell you if there's any chemicals in the olive oil. Of course, how many times are you able to kind of sniff, right? How you're going to sniff, what you're going to sniff. Remy says, as a biochemist myself, I love cod liver oil and first squeeze extra virgin olive oil. Yes, the first run, as they say. Now, I'm not going to say that, well, I'm probably going to say that sometimes it makes a difference when we say first, second, third. I mean, what's the time difference between it? What's the circumstances around it? But if I had to explain about cod liver oil, and what I've learned was in the research, I mean, I dive deep. The cod liver oil of the past was the first. It was from fresh livers. That was number one, immediately extracted, and it was a nice light gold. That's what it was. Much of the cod liver oil that's done today is there's a duration of time that passes before they actually do it. Now, we love cod liver oil for the education we've got on cod liver oil, which is it contains vitamin A and D. And that's really what cod liver oil was to help with, vitamin A and D, especially those in the far north, the less light, not getting not producing enough vitamin D. And when they started refining cod liver oil, it changed everything. Because cod liver oil was actually a product that needed to contain vitamins A and D, and it would contain it naturally. They actually had to add it back into the cod liver oil. In a lot of cases, it was synthetically added back into the cod liver oil. So in our heads, we can see how wonderful cod liver oil would be. It's been around for a long time. It is a source of healthy fats if it's not refined processed. It's been very helpful for the A and D for a long time, but much of the product, the cod liver oils that people had been consuming for decades, really was an oxidated fish oil. When you smell something and it doesn't smell great, I mean, fish right out of the sea, right of the ocean, there's not that fishy smell that we relate to when we have fish sitting around for a little while, or the fish oil that's been sitting around for a little while, if that makes any sense at all. And so for the most part, the reason why I was people turning their noses up to it, feeling, the stomach getting upset with it, people not wanting to take it. I have heard so many stories, North America, the Caribbean islands, UK, Europe, where cod liver oil was a bad experience. And that's really, if it were the original cod liver oil in the initial years that they were working with this, and this is in Newfoundland as well, where some of the initial press, and then it would actually be actually be shipped to the England, UK, but it had to be used and packaged right away or put in capsules or something. But it was a very light golden oil that didn't have any smell to it, and that is the non-oxidized. Anything oxidized means that it's just adding an additional burden to our system, and more so for those people who have compromised digestive system, compromised immune system, which in a lot of ways is where we are today with our health. A lot of people with a lot of the stress and the unbalanced lifestyles, we'll just say that. I mean, working 12-hour days, studying 12 hours, when we have these kids going to school, and just crazy, just absolutely crazy routines, not balanced at all, jacking themselves up on coffee. Okay, that's another story. I won't get going on that. But really, the raw seal oil, in my opinion, is really the, how can I say it? I don't want to say things are better than anymore, or the best, but really it is the most efficient, effective source, taken in sublingually, bypassing the unpredictable digestive system, which doesn't work when you're under stress. To what degree it's going to be different for different people, but bypass, it goes into the blood, goes into the brain, goes into the system. And what omegas are helpful for, of course they are, but now you got to sort out what source is managing inflammation, supporting the nervous system and the brain, which is really the key communication with all of your body, right? You can't move a muscle without your nerves. Your endocrine system is all this communication from nervous system. Your peristaltic movement with your digestive system absolutely depends on your nerves, right? So that's, my book is the digestive system partnered with the nervous system, and primarily that's because I can't really find a practitioner or a, how can I say it, holistic, whether that's Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, where they don't say the digestive system is dysfunctioning every time when there's a condition or when there's a disease. So they really say, and I think it's a very good starting point. It's almost like the foundation. What we put into our body matters most. So of course, starting with the food that you put into your body, that will change the digestive system. But there's other things. There's the mind stuff that come into play here. Absolutely. Where's most of our stress come from? It's absolutely the mind. So I hope that helps there. I mean, raw seal oil, in what I've seen with the field research I've done, with the published research where nerves grow back, and even Olympic athletes can actually improve, strength and recovery by 5% and 9% respectively. This is an Inuit. This is all kind of tied into them showing little to no heart disease, but that rich source of fat is really a very good source of energy. And guess what? You need energy, right? You need energy. We're all this one big, energy ball of energy at the end of the day in order to do any functions in our body, to think, to move, to heal. Energy. So we got to think energy. And those fatty acids, or AKA omegas, or AKA raw seal blubber, or those kind of things, the source of fats, those good fats would actually, besides being lubrication, which to me is on the not necessarily less important, it's part of the importance, but not part of, in my thinking, the higher functioning lubrication with our skin. If we didn't have enough fats in our skin, that's one of the things you're going to notice. If you don't have enough fats to have healthy skin, you're going to see dryness there and all of that. So this is where fatty acids become extremely important on that front. But the higher functioning, the brain functioning, the healing, that's where the healthy essential fatty acids and omegas, if you want to call them, or monounsaturated fats, or saturated fatty acids, like all of these fats and combinations are through all the foods that we have. Even in I think in seal oil, there's more monounsaturated fats. In fish oil, there's more saturated fatty acids. But they all have a combo. Even if you look at nuts, you look at olive oil, they're not 100% that type of fat that they tell you, monounsaturated fat. Olive oil is not 100% monounsaturated fats. So there is kind of a breakdown, a profile of fats for almost all of these, but the idea is not to have them processed. So I'm going to leave fats at this point. I could talk about it. That's really where my expertise is, but not only what I focus on, because just if you get one-sided, I'd rather look at the bigger picture and all nutrients that our body requires, starting with oxygen and breathing in, and water, that is really helpful for producing energy. Even, this is a bit of a story for people who are chemists, the Krebs cycle. If you look at Krebs cycle, one of the things to help you produce energy is the breathing and the fats, or the breathing and the glucose, and one is more efficient than the other. The fats are more efficient, and then you get waste byproducts like carbon dioxide, which you want to breathe out and which comes out of the energy producing, and then water as well, and energy. So you see, you're even producing water from producing energy. How cool is that? So keep breathing. I'm breathing in deeply, and you know what? I'm just gonna interject here at this moment, because this is something I teach in the YDAN classes, is proper breathing. Now, breathing can come in different forms, breathing with your movement, in and out, expansion and so forth. But this breathing is just to understand where you actually breathe in, you pause, you breathe out, and you pause. That's why if you kind of breathe in and out when you're doing exercises, it kind of, I can get into hyperventilation, but there's a pause there that you need to bring in. So when you're focusing on breathing, you actually are not putting in that pause. So if you put in that pause, you're going to find it's so much easier to breathe. And naturally, we would have pauses in there. But as they say, a lot of people shallow breathe. They don't breathe deep enough. But you want to breathe in slowly. You want to slow down the breath so that you're calming the nervous system and you're digesting better. So good homework to have before you eat your meal is to slow your breath down. When you slow your breath down, you're actually going to calm the body. You won't be being chased by a lion anymore, and that will actually help your digestive system to kick in to optimally digesting. So if you can just focus on the food that you're consuming, do that breathing. Hopefully you don't have some like rock music over here, some construction banging over there, and you have this, quiet space that you can, then you can do that and start with that. That would be great. That would be awesome. The thing I was going to talk about here is, I know I've spoken to coffee, and I'm not pro coffee at any rate. I think coffee stimulates the nervous system. From what I've read, it stimulates your nervous system. And sure, you feel great from that stimulation, but then you get a crash. You're not having natural energy. You're using, coffee's being used to stimulate, and you feel this agitation in the body, the stimulation in your nerves, and that's what you're getting. But when you wake up the next morning, if you're the type of person that is really, having the coffee stimulate you, having the coffee give you your energy, then you'll feel very, you just got to have that coffee in the morning. But here's another thing I wanted to kind of bring in, which is alcohol. I'm not really pro-alcohol, although I don't drink coffee at all. The idea is I have drank alcohol here and there, a glass of wine, but I've never been pro-alcohol. I mean, there's years I've gone where I've not had alcohol at all, even at a young age, even when I was 20, 28 or something, a few different years around. It was so easy for me to stop because, and this was just something I'm going to read a little bit from, let me find it here. Yes, here it is. And basically here is the dangers of rewarding yourself with alcohol. Now, more about what it is, we can all understand that we've heard many times. Drinking alcohol in moderation is good for you, and even, I'm just going to kind of bring this out, even in cases where red wine, right? So you have this red wine, and everybody is, thinking of alcohol. And listen, alcohol does, how can I say it, relax people. So we're not saying that don't drink alcohol at all, but the idea is to have better understanding, to have the awareness, So if you're like somebody, and I'll just, say this, like my mother, she was having, 2 to 3 glasses of wine on her own every day because she had learned that alcohol is good for you. And then she ends up with cancer. Okay, but there's a couple other factors there. But the idea here in this article here, which I'll post the link below, is really, most people are not thinking that a bottle of wine will cause cancer, says Professor Emmanuel, director of the Center of Alcohol Policy Research at La Trobe University, but it can. Now, earlier this year, research from UNSW found alcohol to be one of the leading preventable causes of breast cancer, and other research shows that are aware of that link. Fewer than half of the Aussies are aware of that link. So alcohol consumption is also related to many other health problems, such as liver disease and depression. And I'm sure there's going to be many more, and whatever your weak spots are. And the idea is to, the problem is that over the years, there really has been a number of articles, a number of research that has says moderation drinking is okay. Absolutely. And even healthy. And of course it's been confusing because some people say no, but the idea is to learn about really what alcohol is and how the body uses alcohol and what it does with it. Now, it absorbs directly through the stomach lining, is my understanding, and goes directly into the blood. And we know that if you have too much to drink, the toxicity of the alcohol will absolutely make a change in how you think, how you can focus. But at any rate, any alcohol that's coming in the body is still toxic. It's still toxic. And what I've noticed is, and I have tested this myself, where because my liver is working so well and my elimination is working so well, when I have a couple glasses of wine, and I've tested this a couple of ways. One, where I haven't had any water. Do you remember hearing that the reason why certain cultures were drinking wine and beer so many years ago is that the water may not have been safe, and so they were drinking it. So I decided I was going to try a few things over the years and see what would happen. But even if I drank some water with the alcohol, which I recommend highly every time you drink something of alcohol, and hopefully it's just the regular size, and you drink a glass of water, 4-ounce glass of wine, a glass of water, 8-ounce glass of wine, 2 glasses of water. And it'll make the world of difference. The reason being is alcohol is dehydrating. So even though I'd have alcohol and I didn't feel any buzz or anything, what I noticed the most was the dehydration effects that it had. And even if it was just 1 glass of wine, subtly just kind of being aware of what it feels like having not, had any alcohol for several months. This is what it is. So alcohol is dehydrating. It's a toxin, no matter what drop, drips, whatever, ounce, glass, whatever, it's that. So be the judge. And usually if anybody's trying to heal from anything, alcohol is off the list, right? Caffeine would be off the list as well. And that's what I just wanted to kind of say about alcohol. And, hello, everyone. What else did I want to talk about? Garbage. This is kind of really interesting. It's going to kind of leave off. I don't know if anybody has been to Hawaii. I had a neighbor that was at Hawaii. And even with certain, the kids being in school, this kind of come up where in Hawaii, they don't put any garbage cans at the beach, or let's say the parks. None. Zippo. So if any of you have ever walked to the beaches, or you've been there on a busy weekend, and let's be grateful everybody's putting their garbage in the garbage can, but there's not enough garbage cans to fill the garbage. So you got this overflow, and it's there, and they've got to put garbages in many different parts, and just so they catch you no matter where you're walking. But the idea in Hawaii was that no garbage can. So no matter where you are, if you leave your home and you're going here, you're going there, the beach, maybe at the park, maybe just for a walk, you bring your garbage home with you. So then there's no public garbages. How cool is that? That would eliminate any of this overflow, or let's say the garbage is taken away from the nature of the beach or the parks. And so whatever garbage, whatever we take with us, and if it's food, if it's packaging or whatever, we just got to get used to maybe carrying some sort of a bag or something that we can put all of the garbage into, bring it home, and then, sort it that kind of way. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I'm going to practice that. I'm going to practice that, where even though I know there are garbages out there, I'm going to practice that. So then I'm just going to bring it all home with me and not use the garbages that are put out there, the public garbages, anywhere they are. But I thought that was a really, really good idea, and it can be implemented anywhere. right? It's not the kind of thing that can't be used anywhere. It can absolutely be used anywhere. And I don't know if any questions on anything so far. The other idea was kale. I was going to bring up kale. Now, apparently kale has been around for a very long time, but in North America, maybe only 100 years or so, not very long. It's part of the cabbage family. It's just very like a loose cabbage, but it has a variety. It has a variety of nutrients and nutrient profile. Basically, like anything that's raw and leafy green, there's the thing called the salic acid, and I'll put the link to this, and really it's just Wikipedia, but it gives you kind of an idea. I'm not sure if some people have heard that too much kale may not sit well with different people, and that might be the acid into it. Again, when it comes to raw vegetables, it's your system has to do a number on it to digest properly. Cooked food you get more energy out of cooked food. Now, if you take kale and you juice it, like fruits and vegetables, it's a form of a processing. It's like not the whole, it's not like the whole leaf anymore. And that's a part of a processing, which when people do these cleanses, that's what they're usually using. They're taking these foods and they're processing them. I'm not saying highly processed, but they're processing them so they can access the nutrient value in there, rather than our digestive system needing to use all that energy to break it down and to access everything that's kind of in that, in that food, that raw food. And there's so much more. Maybe next week I'll talk a little bit more about raw foods versus cooked foods. And I actually put a whole section of that in my book, different angles to look at, weight loss, healthy weight gain, different aspects of it to come into play. It really does. The other thing, what did I want to talk about here, might want to bring up a bit, is back to the diagnosis thing. There is definitely, we need to have an understanding here that the medical community and the holistic community, I'll just say kind of two camps and maybe a number of them in between, can work together a lot more. I mean, really they can. That there is still room for working together, a lot of room. We need not work in different camps, although that is definitely happening. But there are even people that are medical doctors, let's say in Asia, that actually, took acupuncture, and they're more of allowing to do that. Whereas here, I don't think the licenses accept that. But the idea is choice, right? You want choice to heal your body, and the medical is really about dealing with the symptoms, and the medicines are really dealing with the label of those symptoms. So you got cancer. The only way they know how to control it in research is chemo treatment. But as I said earlier, chemo treatment is actually the reason why some of those people with cancer actually die. They don't die from the cancer. They're actually dying from the poison, which doctors know. If they don't know, it's because they're not focusing on cancer. They don't have enough time to read about it. But the ones who are dealing with the research on cancer will call it a poison. So there is side effects every time. It's poison, right? It's trying to kill the cancer. And if you're strong enough to survive and to regrow, which our body is amazing. I mean, even through the seal oil, when I got contacted by the researchers, they had figured out that if they had given omega-3, to the people who are going through chemotherapy, this would offset the damage to the nerves. Remember, they talk about stuff happening to memory and things happening in the brain. Well, depending where the chemo gets to and what's kind of, how it circulates and so forth, this is what's happening. So they wanted to use an omega, and they did use the raw seal oil. I just don't have the research to give you, but I can tell you through the grapevine that it helped the nerves, it helped the patients. No different than the research with people with type 1 diabetes, where they actually grew nerves back in their eye to see. Okay, so because blindness is a complication of diabetes, people with diabetes, it is. So you can kind of see the connection. Nerve damage is part of all the complications with people with diabetes, and poisons in the body, medicine. And there's also something called idiopathic nerve damage, which is they don't know why. Well, they know that it's not related to cancer, and they know it's not related to having diabetes. So somewhere in there, I think it's the medicine, to tell you the truth. Anywhere I've met somebody who've had idiopathic neuropathy or nerve damage, they don't know why, there's usually some medicines, but it could be an overload of toxicity of something else, maybe not just medicines. But on the cancer side, if you can offset damaging nerves, that would really help, because people who have cancer, if you don't know this, this part of the neuropathy is their feet will go numb, their hands will go numb. And when their feet goes numb, they don't know what they're walking on. They could step on a piece of glass, not feel that they've cut their foot, and bleed to death. They wouldn't feel it. So this is all part of the nerve damage, the neuropathy, the lower limb amputation to do with people who have diabetes. It's crazy. I mean, if you have people that you know that are going through chemotherapy, or even have been, because they're, sometimes they say things don't recover, and they don't recover for a long time. But this would help them recover. And maybe the potential of recovering more would be better. I don't really know. There's no research on that. And diabetes, but any one of us, I mean, if we're preventing, if we want to be on our game, if we want to have optimum healing and energy, which is for healing, then healthy fats are going to be the thing. They're to me, the number one thing. Most people are getting enough carbs. They're getting enough protein, and in some cases not, depending on the type of diet. But there's that kind of thing. So I just want to see if there's any questions here from anybody that's on board here. Your homework could be, not that I want to get in the habit of giving homework. Some people don't like the word homework, and then they just want to kind of run away the other way. And that's okay too. But the idea would be to take some action from what you hear, from what I'm sharing, and see what vegetable oils you have, in your food. Check out, organic raisins. No word of a lie. Organic raisins will have vegetable oil sprayed on it because it helps them not to stick together. Fats, and primarily they're all unhealthy fats, is lubrication of the food industry. Basically, you don't want food sticking to the pipes, the machinery, the equipment. Well, spray it with vegetable oil. Most people here are familiar with the PAM. When you're cooking foods, you put butter in, so you've got this coating of fat, right? And this is the same with food manufacturing. They'll use all this vegetable oil. I'm not even sure if they use the vegetable oil and there's traces of it that get in the food, whether or not they even have to put it on the label or not. I'm not sure. But on raisins, they would absolutely have to, because it's actually sprayed on the raisins. It's part of that. So they actually have to put it on there. Any questions, anyone? And thanks for the questions, Ramiz, Zayed. So it's always helpful to ask questions. People learn from the questions. So you've got questions and you ask those questions, and other people haven't thought of those questions. So it's good to ask questions. So people learn, we learn from each other when there's different questions on board. So much we talked about today. You can live without coffee. Some of you are going to say, no, you can't. Yes, you can. There's ways to bring natural energy. Like I said, healthy fats are a good source of energy. Even tonics, adaptogenic stuff, vitamin Bs are good for energy. Many things are good for energy. Any food is energy, but we want to work with the calories that are required and not overdo it. But the idea, you don't have to, you don't have to have alcohol. We can absolutely bring our garbage home. Kale, I think a little bit of raw kale is probably good for all of us, but not just because of the vitamin K in there, and we've learned about vitamin K. Vitamin K is in the Saskatoon berries. Vitamin K is in different things. But if kale is a part of your natural diet, or you're thinking about it, a little bit of kale mixed in with some rice. And I would do it raw. And a good thing to do with kale is just to massage it with some oil, whether that's olive oil or whether that's coconut oil. You can massage a little bit of it, softens it up, and then with little pieces of it, you can add it into things. And like I was doing with soups many times, especially with miso soup, where you just warm it up and you're kind of dissolving it, you can add chopped tomatoes, you can add chopped spring onions, and I'm going to say you can add a little bit of a shredded kale. So just very thinly cut up, and you just add a little bit of that, like you would add chard and some of these other things that you wouldn't eat raw. You can add that into soups after you've made the soup. Yeah, we talked about seal oil. I'll put a link down below so you can actually see what the difference are between the plant omegas, the fish omegas, and the raw seal omegas. Now, I say raw seal omegas because the refined seal oils, not like the raw seal oil. It's like night and day. The raw seal oil will absorb sublingually. The refined seal oil won't absorb sublingually. That is one of the big difference. But it's like I used to say this, and I know it's a little bit graphic here, but okay, you got a hand. Now, this hand is alive, and it works, and I can send signals to it because it's all connected, right? It's all connected. It's full of energy. It's full circulation, nerve function, everything. Now, if I cook this hand, will it work the same way? Will it have the same, will I even be able to move it, connect with it? No. So it's so different. It's almost like cooked and alive, cooked. They're two different things. And that's the essence I can really give you when I'm thinking about cooked seal oil and raw seal oil. One is vibrant and has all the connections. And if we think about energy, if we're all energy, that's vibrating. The cooked seal oil ain't vibrating so much. So thank you, everyone, for coming on board. Best of health. And just know, at any time you have any questions about seal oil, other things, I've been doing 15-minute complimentary, only by phone, because people pop in here, it'll probably be a half an hour, but only by phone, just to answer certain questions, or people can tell me kind of what's going on, and I can guide them the best routes to go on. So I'm happy to do that for anybody and everybody. Basically, a lot of people are still fearful. I don't even put that out there. It's more the unknown, alternative and holistic, but really that's really all they had, to work with. And still, nature is nature's best healer. Is best healing. So I want to just say, get out there, get some fresh air, breathe properly. That's a count of 4, right? So breathe in, pause, breathe out, pause, breathe in, pause. So it's that whole pause thing. Move, get some walking in, take your breaks, stand up, sit down, do all of that. All these things are for your better health. Look forward to seeing everybody next Monday. Any questions, any comments, any feedbacks, all of that's welcomed here. You want to share the video, go ahead. It's wonderful. It's happy to share with more people. And the idea is we just simplify more and more as time goes by. So take care, everyone. Have a great week. Best of health until next week. Thanks for coming on board. And we'll see you next week. Bye for now.